January 26, 2013. A 21-year-old woman checks into a hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was traveling alone. She had traveled through California, including San Diego and Los Angeles. She stayed in contact with her parents. Then, on January 31st, she stopped calling. Days pass, weeks pass. Then, guests at that same hotel start complaining. The water pressure is low, the water tastes wrong. A maintenance worker climbs to the roof. He checks the water tanks. What he finds becomes one of the most widely discussed true crime discoveries in recent years. This is the story of Elisa Lam, and the questions it raises have never been fully answered. Elisa Lam, also known by her Cantonese name Lam Ho Yi, was a 21-year-old student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. She was the daughter of Hong Kong immigrants David and Yina Lam. She kept two blogs. The first, on Blogspot, was called Ether Fields, named after a Chuck Palahniuk quote she used as her blog's epigraph: "You're always haunted by the idea you're wasting your life." In her writing, Elisa documented her struggles with bipolar disorder and depression. Her posts were candid and personal. In one entry, she wrote openly about depression and how difficult it felt. In another post, she described feeling deeply detached and distressed. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and was prescribed medications to manage her condition. Her parents were concerned about her traveling alone. She agreed to stay in regular contact with them during the trip. In January 2013, Elisa traveled to California. According to reporting, she used public transport during her trip. She visited San Diego, posted photos at the zoo, and then made her way to Los Angeles. On January 26th, she arrived in Los Angeles and checked in to the Cecil Hotel, then operating under the name Stay on Main at 640 South Main Street. She had no way of knowing what that building had already witnessed. The Cecil Hotel opened in the 1920s and later became a budget hotel near Skid Row, one of the most impoverished districts in Los Angeles. Over time, it developed a grim reputation and became associated with multiple deaths. According to Los Angeles Magazine, the hotel has long been linked to several deaths over its history, many of them unexplained. But two names from that history demand specific attention. Between 1984 and 1985, Richard Ramirez terrorized Southern California. He murdered at least 13 people. He lived on the 14th floor of the Cecil Hotel during this period. Observers who have written about the Cecil describe that era as chaotic, dangerous, and largely uncontrolled. In 1991, Austrian journalist Jack Unterweger checked into the Cecil while working on a story about crime in Los Angeles. He rode along with LAPD vice officers, which later raised suspicion. Some accounts suggest Unterweger may have seen the Cecil connected to Ramirez, but that is not definitively proven. What is confirmed is that during his stay, 3 sex workers were strangled. The killings were traced back to Unterweger. He was convicted and died by suicide the same night he was sentenced to life in prison. 2 serial killers, 1 hotel, decades apart. This was the building Elisa Lam had just checked into. When Elisa first checked in, she was placed in a shared room. According to hotel accounts and reporting, her roommates complained about odd behavior, including notes left on their beds telling them to go away. After approximately 2 nights, hotel staff moved Elisa to a private room. On January 31st, 2013, 5 days after she arrived, Elisa Lam was last seen alive. When her parents did not receive her regular call, they contacted the Los Angeles Police Department. Officers searched the hotel and her room. They found her belongings still inside, including her ID and medication. Investigators reported no evidence of forced entry into the room. The search produced no leads. Elisa Lam had simply vanished. In February 2013, investigators released surveillance footage from the hotel elevator, hoping someone would recognize Elisa or come forward with information. The footage spread globally within hours. In the approximately 4-minute video, Elisa enters the elevator wearing a red hoodie and black shorts. She presses multiple floors. The elevator doors do not close. She steps outside the elevator. She looks down the hallway carefully, then steps back in. She presses more buttons. She makes unusual hand movements near the doorway. Then she walks away down the hallway. The elevator doors finally close. That is the last known footage of Elisa Lam alive. Investigators believed she may have been pressing the door open button, or the elevator may have been experiencing a technical malfunction. Investigators found no evidence that she was accompanied by anyone else during her stay. 19 days passed. The investigation continued. The hotel returned to its routines. On February 19, 2013, at approximately 10:15 in the morning, guests at the Cecil Hotel reported low water pressure and an unusual taste in the top water. A maintenance worker was sent to inspect the rooftop water tanks. He found one tank lid open. Inside, he found Elisa Lam's body in the water. She was found unclothed. Her clothing and room key were found at the bottom of the tank. Guests had been using the hotel's water before the discovery. Authorities issued a do not drink order after the body was discovered. Water was restricted to toilet use only while testing was conducted. Later testing found no harmful bacterial levels, and the restriction was lifted after the investigation and testing process. An autopsy was performed on February 21, 2013. The findings showed no major physical trauma. The official cause of death was ruled accidental drowning. Bipolar disorder was listed as a significant contributing factor. The toxicology report found no alcohol or illegal drugs in Elisa's system. Her prescription medications were detected, but the results suggested she had not been taking them as prescribed. The medical significance is that medication inconsistency can be relevant in bipolar disorder, especially when symptoms become severe or unstable. This is the element of the case that has never been fully resolved. Roof access was restricted and complicated. The exact route Elisa may have taken has never been clearly established. The exact mechanics of how she got into the tank remain disputed. The tanks sat above the roof surface. Reaching the opening required climbing and moving a heavy lid. Once inside, getting back out would have been extremely difficult. Investigators said they believed she likely reached the roof in an altered state, entered the tank, and could not get out. They also said they had considered whether a third party could have placed her there and did not find that explanation feasible. The case was officially closed. No criminal charge resulted. No suspect was ever identified. This theory is the most consistent with the medical and investigative record. Experts interviewed in the documentary suggested that Elisa's elevator behavior could fit a severe manic or psychotic episode related to bipolar disorder. Her medication findings supported the view that she may not have been properly medicated. In that state, a person may act in ways that are hard to understand from the outside but feel logical to them. Some people, including some forensic professionals, have questioned whether the physical circumstances make accidental entry into the tank plausible for one person acting alone. Some reviewers said significant questions remained unanswered before accepting the accidental ruling as final. Investigators did not find evidence pointing to a third party, and no suspect was identified. The coroner did not find the evidence sufficient to rule the death a suicide. Elisa's blog posts do document periods of suicidal ideation, but the official determination did not support intentional self-harm as the cause. Shortly after Elisa's body was discovered, a tuberculosis outbreak occurred in the Skid Row area near the Cecil Hotel. The medical test used to detect the specific strain is called the Lam-Elisa test. This was a genuine coincidence, and the test predates Elisa Lam, but it became one of the most discussed details in the case. A creator who had filmed content inside the Cecil Hotel before Elisa's death was wrongly accused by internet investigators. He received death threats, was elsewhere at the time, and was innocent. His case became a stark example of how online mob accusations can go wrong. The official ruling is accidental drowning. The case is closed, but the questions it leaves behind are real ones. How did she reach the roof? How did she get into that tank? Why were the water tanks not checked when the hotel was initially searched? Elisa's parents filed a civil negligence lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel. It was later dismissed. The Cecil Hotel was later rebranded, and its guest operations changed over time. The building still stands at 640 South Main Street in downtown Los Angeles. Netflix's 2021 documentary, Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, brought this case to a global audience and reignited the debate. Elisa Lam was 21 years old. She wrote honestly about her pain. She was traveling, exploring, trying to find herself. She deserved better than to become an internet mystery. If this case left you unsettled, it should. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more real investigations, real cases, real stories, subscribe to LoreScope.